Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. I'm with Gordon. Hello, Gordon. He's
Hello.
not moving. There he is. We have the twins gathered. Dear friends, we're in the heart of Napa Valley with one of the most spectacular American artists of all time. Guess what? You're going to notice he's alive.
I am alive.
Are you alive?
I'm very alive.
Oh! That was full surprise. How many of you do we have like this?
Well, there's me, and then there's this me, and then there's a third me that is actually on a tightrope in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina at the airport.
I love it, and I
Cheers.
saw it. So, dear friends, one of the most amazing artists in America, not just in Napa Valley, Gordon has his studio right here in the heart of Napa. Son of German immigrants, and he made a path for himself in a new vision of art in America. And he calls it Art Matters. We cannot agree with this more.
Cheers.
We share that and we have that in common. So Gordon, how did it start?
How did it start? I would say it started when I was about 4 years old in Napa, stressing out what I was going to be when I grew up.
At 4 years old, you were stressing.
No, and I got this picture in my head that life is like when you get on a train, and as long as you're alive, the train's moving, and when the train stops, you get off, life's over. So I had a sense of urgency and panic, and I wanted to do something important while I was here, and I don't know how long my ride is. That's when it started, and then I had the heart and soul of an artist, and that's who I was going to be, and that's who I was.
Well, I want to toast to this,
Again.
dear friends. He discovered early on, luckily, what he knew he wanted to do. How did that happen? Was it your parents? Was it your siblings? Was it the beautiful Napa Valley sky?
Some things are not explainable. I think some people have a louder inner voice than others. And I had a loud one, and I listened to it, and I paid attention, and I was just very determined to do something with my life. And I really wanted to make the world a better place, or my part, anyways, all that I could do.
And why should the world be a better place thanks to art? Provocative question.
Well, gee whiz, try to picture art. Picture the world without art in it. Art includes that sparkly shirt you got on. It includes that beautiful car you're driving, beautiful car I'm driving.
And the beautiful hat you're wearing.
Architecture, women, it's all art. It's super important.
Are we living art forms?
Well,
for the most part.
Well, you certainly are.
You are.
No, you are.
Hey, look, there's two of you.
Yes, that's right. Can I do that too?
It took balls to actually create your own self.
Whew. Yeah, well.
So why did you want yourself to be on a string in an airport in North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina. You know, I wind up in the weirdest places, but I needed a model to do this. This is actually done with digitally. So they came and they scanned me. They scanned Darcy. They scanned like 10 characters. And the first one, I thought it should be me because, well, I'm conveniently always present. And I needed a model. So that made sense.
Are you a believer, like many painters, that you're always within the painting and you're always somewhere to be found?
Spiritually, certainly. Not always physically, not like this. I'm not in everything, no. Like Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Right?
He's always appearing.
He's always there.
So, dear friends, you realize we are in this amazing studio, not only a display, but where actually everything is created. And you can hear the sound. There's a lot of engine rowing. We're in a fabulous place in Napa. And I suggest, Gordon, I don't know what you think, let's go inside to see what you started to create and walk you through this amazing showroom you have, because I want to go inside of your brain.
Well, let's go. I'm happy
Let's
to
go,
share.
baby. So now we are inside the Temple of Ideas. We are inside the artist himself. So Gordon, you got to tell us about this amazing space.
Yes, it is an amazing space, actually. So it's a dream studio for an artist. When an artist dreamed it up, that would be me. And 12, 14 years ago, I bought this old metal box, and spent a lot of money and transformed it into a light-filled temple of creativity. And if you want to, for me, if somebody wants to be creative, you need to be in a creative space to stay in that frame of mind. So no matter where I turn my head in this place, I see beauty. Same where I live. No matter where I turn my head, I see beauty. It's kind of like when you go to Raymond, to the Red Room, right?
Yes.
No matter where you turn your head, it's like discovery, surprise, intellectually challenging. So that's that and much more that's in this place here. And in this space where we are right now, this is what I call the fine art gallery. So I'll make a distinction. There's something called studio art. Studio art is very personal, just you and the empty canvas, so to speak. And then another part of this creativity that you'll see is the large-scale, site-specific, permanent art installations that we do all over the country in different parts of the world. So I'm not sure, JC, do you want to like point to something and ask about it, or do you want to move on, or what do you want?
Absolutely.
What do you want to do?
I want to point to wherever you want to go.
Okay, well, okay.
Because, dear friends, I'm having shivers of excitement. There's nothing better. And you define it so well, this metallic, phenomenal world of creativity. When you love to create, you want to be inspired. You want to be magnetized by what you see, by what you feel. And what I love with Gordon, he does big size, outdoors, small size, indoors. And he uses his mind and creativity where there's no limit to the fabric he uses. From glass to canvas to...
Material-wise, I'm all over the place. And part of the reason is like my passion is telling other people's stories, particularly in the commissioned large-scale work. And so I've never allowed myself to be bound by materials because the story comes first. And then the materials will follow the story. I don't even have a particular style. If you were, when we walk around, you would think that maybe 12 different artists are working here. It's just me. And it's a little bit, I will have to warn your viewers, it's a little bit overwhelming. I mean, I'm doing all this and I get overwhelmed sometimes when I come in the morning. Like,
hey,
shit,
does wine come into play to overwhelm you? Does it help in the creative process?
It helps calm me down a little bit because the brain's always going, and sometimes you just need to kind of like chill a little bit, have a glass of wine and look at the river. Darcy and I live on the Napa River. We just look at the river, have a glass of wine, and chill a little bit.
And do you, before we go around, your thinking process, you have an idea. How do you concretely materialize this idea into a form, into a shape, into what it is? Do you have an idea? Do you write it first? Do you sketch it? Do you
maybe
feel it?
I feel it, think it. So it's like unpacking something, or I'm trying to put a puzzle together. You're trying to figure out who's my client. What kind of building is it? Is it a hospital? So people are going there and they're nervous and they're stressed, or they're going to an airport. Oh, it's stressful. Boarding pass, gates, all that stuff. So my job is to kind of figure out who is going to view this every day and what do I want to do for them? What story do I want to tell? Maybe I want to take something from nature and magnify it. Maybe for a hospital, you get out of your car and you walk to the front door, and I want to take down the stress level a little bit for you and inspire you and maybe make you think about something else.
So I love this, and I think it's very important to apply as well the art piece to where it's going to be and to the place and the communication it's meant to give. Veteran homes, you said it, airport, hospital, maybe it's a museum, maybe it's an art center.
Maybe it's a memorial. I'm flying to Atlanta, Georgia next week. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but in the 70s, 30 African-American children were murdered. The mayor of Atlanta was a child in that neighborhood in those days. She got legislation passed to do a memorial to these children. It's a national competition that I won. I'm flying out next week for the dedication.
Big deal.
For the groundbreaking. And each one of those victims has a family, has a soul, has a spirit, and we want to. Those are touchstones. Each name is there, and I've met some of the family even. It's very, very emotional. So you can go from something that heavy to something that's whimsical and fun and happy. So I'm the whole thing. I'm the whole spectrum.
Are you dramatic as a person?
Well, some would say that next to you, I'm a wallflower.
He smells good. What fragrance are you
Ralph
wearing?
Lauren polo. But
That's what I used to wear in the 1940s.
Oh,
I'm so glad.
ouch.
I'm reincarnated. No, I love it. It suits you well.
I think that a lot of people think maybe that I have a big personality, but you know, when you're inside your own self, you often mostly see yourself different than other people see you, and I don't see myself that way.
Well, I do. Big personality. And I hope Dylan is capturing the beautiful shoes. Dear friends, he's Mr. Fashion, as you know. Snakeskins.
He's my inspiration.
Snakeskins. So let's go to this piece.
Yeah, right.
The bellwethers.
Bellwether. So oftentimes, you know, I stumble on stuff at a junkyard, or I don't even remember where I found these. These are probably glass transformers.
They look like nipples to me, but that's
well,
okay.
you know,
we look at the world in a very different way sometimes.
Well, each one of these is a ex-girlfriend. Just kidding. And so behind this are CDs, if anybody remembers what those are, compact discs. And so it's just some cable, a nail, a CD, and I just arrange them. And I just think, for me anyways, they're super beautiful. They feel kind of fragile. Nothing's glued or anything. It's just hanging from that little cable.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then over here, this is taking one large piece of metal, cropping it. All this rust was already here. I added some pigment. Well, first I had them cut and formed, added the yellow pigment, put a resin coating on it so that it's like very glassy, very refined.
That's right.
Very beautiful finish on them. And I've always been so amazed and interested in this idea of humans. We try to make everything really perfect, like this cement floor.
Yep.
And then what does nature do? She comes and she takes back what belongs to her, in this case in the form of a crack. I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
I think this is beautiful. I couldn't paint that if I wanted to.
For sure.
Nature did that.
Marvelous expression of nature. What about that piece?
This is off the side of a
Always
building
loved
in Napa. Huge sheet. These are musicians in Napa from the 1930s is my guess, or 20s probably. So I love this idea of the past being touchstones for the present or to the future. All these people had a life. They were all artists because they're musicians. And they were I was able to bring them back from maybe a drawer in the archives or something.
That's right. Very, very meaningful in terms of the meaning of the storytelling. Talking about this is your library.
That's called Word Up. It's just a little whimsical, the little towers. And then those turned into something else over there on the wall. But really, if you don't mind, JC,
I'm in love with this piece.
So this here is called Table for Four. Table for Four. So let's just say it's a metaphor for our planet. And I have an imam, I have a rabbi, I have a Catholic priest, and I have an atheist, let's just say. And they're sitting at the table. They don't have much choice because they're sharing the planet. And it's super uncomfortable. Sometimes it's even painful, but we've got to find a way to be together because we are.
That's right.
That's what this is about.
Hey, that's a powerful piece.
And, you know, I love doing this kind of work, but again, you know, that this work does not fuel the studio. It fuels me in a lot of ways as an artist, but what really fuels the studio are the large scale projects.
Well, let's go and see them.
Check them out. Right?
But this is so powerful and meaningful, and you're telling such a story here. Well, talking about a great story as well.
That's
this is fabulous
too,
here.
right?
Beautiful too.
Actually, our friend Margaret Mondavia had a piece for me using these hand-drawn glass rods. Also, this is called Silver Reeds, so this is also inspired by nature. This here is my best friend in Germany who fabricates a lot of work for us. This is titled Sebastian's Wiener. And he's a genius. I'm not kidding. He's an engineer, he's a fabricator, he's a genius. And his mother, as a child, put him out on the bench to look out the window, and he held on. She gave him a hot dog, and he's dreamingly looking out the window and used this tractor door. You know what this, right? It's not perfect. It's scratched up.
That's
it's rusty, right? It has a soul. And this has a soul.
The soul of the world. And the window, the double meaning of it.
Yeah,
We're looking at a window when he's looking at the window. I love this piece as well, of course, the rootstocks.
So these are, what's the name of the famous vineyard next to Mondavi? Tocalone. These are from there. Margaret gave me these.
Yeah.
She gave she said, just bring your truck and just load up all you want. So I started making furniture out of them.
They're very cool.
Nice little tasting bar.
Well, they speak nature. They speak the extension of what the earth has to offer. So now we're going into the creative spirits of the man himself.
Yeah, right. If you want to say it that way, you can. So what happens in here is like we'll have, pre-COVID, there had a lot of meetings in here with clients and potential clients. We have a lot of visitors, and trying to explain to someone what happens in this building can be challenging because it's not something that people see every day and they're trying to understand. And so I use this room as a tool to explain what it is that we do. And so what we do, again, is large-scale, site-specific, permanent art installations for airports, churches, temples, hospitals, civic buildings, courthouses, civic plazas, memorials. I mean, there's just...
We didn't hear wineries, unfortunately. What happens? They cannot afford it.
Winery starts with a W. It's towards the end of the alphabet, so I was about to say wineries.
Hey, talking about creative, we're going to serve you a little glass of our friend John Legend, our LVE Provence Rosé. So we're going to discover Gordon phenomenal art and creativity and creation, big scale. Let's go to the biggest amphitheater of wine, the South.
Wow, that's a nice glass.
Maybe we should have a giant glass being made at the entrance of Raymond. Giant, like this. What material should we do it in? Crystal?
They sell your mama. We'll find something. We'll figure that out.
I mean, would it be fun to have a giant glass?
Yeah.
As simple as this one?
Yeah, no, not for, yes. It would be amazing. But now we're really, which we do around here all the time actually, is pushing the limits of technology.
Yeah.
Because we're always thinking so big.
Yes.
And so I've had to surround, not have to, well, I've built an infrastructure around me, project managers, engineers, digital designers, all of that. So I say, my friend JC and I, we want to do this. We want to do it 18 feet tall, and they go running around trying to figure out how to make that happen.
But that's cool because
that's super cool.
You know what I love, dear friends, with Gordon is nothing is impossible, right?
Well, that's how I got here.
Everything is feasible.
That's right.
So walk us through the process because this room for me, I'm having goosebumps, is the dream of creativity. So your guests come here, they have an idea, and you...
Well, yeah, so we might have an introduction meeting here, or maybe we've already developed some ideas, like we had George from Auberge here last week, and we had probably 15 different ideas that we had up on the screen, and we had physical samples and mock-ups, and we had a great jam session, and we landed somewhere that made them really super excited. Or sometimes, if I could switch over here, sorry. But,
of course.
I'll make a really rough model like that. So this went to Richardson, Texas. And it's all about dreaming, fantasy, humanizing a very brand new, shiny development. So that's the cow on the moon. And look at behind it on the poster. We actually did it. And that is photographed, I don't know how many times every day, dozens of times every day.
So it actually happened.
Yep. So sometimes they actually do happen. That's right. So that was really a fun process. Here's Bob and Margaret sitting on the tower of Copia. They used to have lunch there. We did a 9/11 memorial in downtown Napa. There's the model. Really rough, really crude, but to scale.
Yeah.
There's that airport we were talking about.
For sure.
Called the High Wire Travelers.
Here we are. This is Gordon himself.
Right? And that's Darcy, my wife, taking my picture. That's my favorite bartender's ex-wife. That's the Asian dude that does Darcy's nails. That's my daughter on that end.
You recreated your own world at the airport.
Totally.
And tell us about the giant agave.
Yeah, so that was kind of one of our greatest hits, I'll call it. So this is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Albuquerque, more than half their population is somehow related to the Air Force. So I was thinking about that. And it turns out that the agave is their state flower. So I took repurposed military fuel tanks, they call them drop tanks, and made an agave out of it and put it on the side of the Route 66.
Very cool. On Route 66. What about this amazing construction?
That's Clemson University. That's a gigantic abstracted football that actually got installed. That actually happened.
Wow. And I'm a big fan of the clear ideas you have, the see-through glass.
The dichroic glass, yep.
Yeah,
that's
of
good
different
stuff.
colors. So what's your view of that? Explain us your vision.
Well, dichroic glass, there's actually one out there right now. You see in in the soft light how bright the color is.
For sure.
So it's highly reflective, intensely colorful, very, very light sensitive, and it's a very high-tech, they call it a thin layer coating. And we've used it in a lot of different ways over the years.
And here I'm a big fan of this.
Which one, that
the
wreath?
spiral.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like a Nautilus. It looks like the golden ratio.
Yeah, right. So, so there's more models here than I've actually manifested. Sometimes it's because I'll do 3 or 4 ideas for the same project. Sometimes it's because I have to compete for projects.
For sure.
And, well, if you don't lose, you don't win. So that was one that never happened.
And congratulations, you've actually cooked some eggs on here.
Yeah, my daughter has a sense of humor. So she fried me an egg.
This was a bit of a Napa Valley egg. Look at that. Woo!
And then these are all glass samples for different projects over the years. This is my grandmother in Germany, who I never met. This was for a synagogue. This was for a historical courthouse, actually downtown Napa, I did years ago. This was for Oracle Towers. There's another synagogue project. This was for the Lady Bird Johnson Memorial Wall. That was a pretty nice project. So yeah, so there's hundreds of these glass
So
samples
what
around.
fuels, Gordon, your incredible creativity? Because what is so unusual is you succeed to really approach so many materials at once. It's not just glass, it's not just metallic structure, it's everything. So how do you succeed to encompass so many skills? How do you know as you get an idea, oh, I'm going to tackle this one with this type of material versus that?
First, I think it's important to always stay naive and just be a dreamer.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it in the beginning. Just follow the voice, follow the vision, follow the spirit, however you want to say it. And then what I've often thought when up against, well, how the heck are we going to make this? I've often thought, well, when I was a little kid, there was a guy walking around on the moon. That's pretty amazing. So if, 60 years ago somebody was walking around on the moon, I'm pretty sure we can figure out how to make this thing or that thing or whatever.
So when you get a brilliant idea, and I'm on the prime one having millions of ideas, but half of the time I never go through the process of making it happen. And you do. So how do you go about it? Explain us, because many of us with us watching now live what you live, but then we don't go the full way. and you do.
Do you mean like in terms of a project, like how the creative process? Actually, why don't we go to the next
Let's
room,
do
which
it.
is my studio, and I could answer that question with a project that we recently did at Stanley Ranch, an auberge property.
Fantastic. Ooh, I love your collection of little cars here.
Oh, I
Look at
did. I
this.
did 30,000 of those cars on the front of a parking garage years ago. So let's start. Let's do it like this. So let's say you have a project, and the project is a resort, and the resort is in southern Napa, and it's surrounded by vineyards, and this and that, and you're thinking, and then I thought, well, how about I start with the shape of a grape, which that is, isn't it?
Yep.
But then I thought, well, that's stupid. So I cut the middle out, and I just took the two ends, and I hot glued it down, and I put two scale people in there.
Yeah.
And it turned into the infinity loop, which turned into that little rendering, which turned into this.
I love it.
That's
And the infinity shape. I mean, the perfect shape.
and I just bumped into it. I wasn't really even familiar, but Jean-Charles, when you turn this thing, you see that it opens and it closes and it overlaps, and it's so dynamic, and you can see this from so far away, and then when you get near it and you turn, it just keeps changing. So I hope that maybe helped answer that question.
And then, so, yes, so you think, you do a model.
Okay, right.
You know, a man I work with, and some of you will meet him at some stage on the show, is Frank Gehry. So we start, and we worked on a project for 5 years
He's
together.
one of my heroes, that guy.
Well, he sketch, and then he does modeling.
Yep.
And everything is based on modeling. It seems it's the way you function, right?
It is.
And then you go to an application like this, or an idea like that.
Well,
on the
yeah,
computer.
to go from that piece of paper or piece of cardboard to 9-ton sculpture standing there. This was the mock-up. It was mocked up in Germany, then it got taken apart and came back over, or came to the United States in a container or whatever. But there was so much engineering.
Yeah.
And you have a whole team. So you have digital designers, structural engineers, fabricators, project managers. So it's not that different probably than Frank Gehry. His buildings are basically gigantic sculptures.
For
So
sure.
I'm just a mini him. I'm a mini me.
No, you're not mini, you maxi you.
Okay.
And you know, you're both in different fields. But which is amazing is the process. Like, I'm a big fan of hands, because the hands is the extension of the rootstocks and the roots coming out. And with the hands, we can create anything we want.
That's the one out front is called Hand of the Land. And it's all about the men and women that work in the vineyards. They work the soil, they plant, they take care of, and eventually they harvest the grape. And that is the fruit of their
so
labor.
much get
That's
it.
what it is.
I'm negotiating, dear friends, today with our friend Gordon.
Buy one, get
auf
one free.
Deutsch. Wir müssen zusammen Deutsch reden.
Wow.
That maybe help. Hey,
It'll help. It'll help.
So tell us about this one, because she's laying instead of being straight.
Right. So this one was actually for a police station in Fort Worth, Texas. And it was, I did a lot of interviews with the police, a lot of interviews with the community, and the idea was that the police really see themselves as part of the community. They're not separate, we're in this together, and so the blue represents the police, and the sphere represents the community. They see themselves in this reflective sphere, and it was all going really good. And this is the thing about art. It finally got to the Arts Commission. Everybody loved it. Then it got to the chairman of that commission, and he said, "Those are the police squeezing my nuts," and he killed the project. We're still doing.
Did he thought it was his little nuts?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I see.
And he saw.
Maybe he only had one.
And
And
so
he was frustrated.
art sometimes can be interpreted in many different ways, and oftentimes not in the way that the artist had intended, and that's not what I was intending. What I was intending is the story I just told you. He saw something completely different, and then everybody freaked out, and now we're doing something completely different.
Yeah, but which is fair. And I think as an artist, how do you deal, big question, because I create spaces as well,
Yeah,
not
you
to
do.
the same level as you do, but often, you know, it's not easy to be vulnerable or to take the criticism in a way, because you see something the way you see it. the skill is hopefully 100% see it the same way as you do, but sometimes 5% don't. So how do you handle that process?
Are you talking about how do I handle criticism?
Yes.
Well, that's it's interesting that here locally, it's kind of an issue that comes up fairly often nationally and internationally. Hardly anything, no noise at all.
Really?
But it's just maybe because I'm fairly high profile in the community. It's
Yeah.
a small town, and I'm been very active politically and otherwise in moving the community forward. And so my name's in the paper a lot. And so every time my name's in the paper, then Facebook blows up and Neighbor, whatever it's called Neighbor, blows up, and I have to defend myself. But so I probably don't handle it. I could handle it better, but just not. The best way to handle it is probably to ignore it.
Yeah.
But what I tend to do is get myself sucked into it, and I try to explain that, well, you don't really have all the information, so if I could just give you this information, maybe you would change your view.
So you still try to change the views of the viewer?
Yeah, I try to bring them along. And, a lot of times...
But it's great because many artists say, fuck you, if you don't see it, you're on your own.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, but maybe I'm too sensitive, or I want people to give people enough intellectual space to interpret something for themselves. But also remember that, especially in the public art realm, most of your audience are lay people. These are not people that necessarily spend time in galleries and museums, and are people that know who Frank Gehry is, or who Sir Norman Foster is, or they're not in the know. And it's not even a criticism, it just is-ism. They live somewhere else in their head. And then when something like that thing that I just showed you with the pipes shows up in the paper, they think that, well, what is that supposed to mean? And how much was that?
We should go and see it. But like a hand like that, how much would it have cost? Or will it cost when it gets built?
That was all job costed and budgeted, and I think it was around $250.
Yeah.
But you could scale it down. So that thing is like 20 feet long.
That's
right. So that's like from here to the wall there. But
well,
you like big. So.
Oh, I like it big. I like it personally to get your mind in another place than where it is today.
Yeah, that's all. I mean,
art is transportation and manipulation of people's mind.
Yeah.
And I love it because in everything you do, and where I've admired, not that we can afford it yet, but maybe today will be the day.
Yeah.
I've always loved Gordon Huether, dear friends, because he, on a big scale, brings you attention to what you don't think you may want to look at.
Or, JC, if I could say, it could also be on a small scale.
I love that.
So this is, you don't expect to see a Texas Longhorn covered with classic buttons. And some might say, well, what's that supposed to mean? Somebody else might thank you. Somebody else might say, well, that is so cool and sparkly. There's something about each one of these buttons is like an individual little work of art. I just love collaging them together. It's so awesome.
The wealth of fashion. All gonna be on a...
Right, so I got this guy going.
It's
and
amazing.
then this one's going to be completely covered with rhinestones, so it's got the whole sparkle factor.
So you actually doing this yourself? One by one, or you show the way and you have your assistant?
So I did like this much of it, and then I started getting impatient and frustrated, so I have Mendez finish it for me. The buttons, I had the shop put all these normal, ordinary buttons down first as my background, and then I come up behind it and start putting all these classic sparkly buttons. Oh, I love this thing.
I love it.
I think Austin's going to buy it.
Who?
Cheers. Our buddy Austin.
Oh, yeah, I love it. How much would you sell a piece like that? Just maybe someone wants to bid right now.
Well, honestly,
we'll share 50-50.
Oh, really? Then it's 20. It's probably closer to, it's probably 15 to 20,000.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And you got to have the horns, on each side. So it's only 10,000 for each horn.
10,000 a horn.
It's like shoes. If I was in the shoe business, I would sell them individually. 700 for 1 foot.
I got some pretty cool shoes coming.
Well, those are great.
I like these.
Look at that. Woo!
Yeah, man. dedicated followers of fashion.
So now, what about this baby? I know you love rabbits. Huh?
Well, so you know, if your viewers can remember the project we just looked at with the Raleigh-Durham Airport
Yeah.
with the high wire travelers,
Yeah.
all those human bodies were going to have different animal heads: a rabbit, a bear, a salmon.
I love this idea.
And I spent a whole day with the committee. I'll never forget, all day trying to get them there. They just couldn't get there. So at the end of the day, I said, okay, I give up. We'll just make them people. But I brought this rabbit with me to but anyways, I couldn't get him there.
Pretty
So
cool.
it's experimenting. It's okay.
Hey, what about snakes? Look, we serving you our latest wine,
Wow.
JCB and Rapture, dear friends. You've never seen it yet. We just released it 2019 Napa
And
Valley.
what is the significance of this label that's so beautiful
Isn't
and
it great?
artfully
The
done?
temptation of the snake being the ultimate secretive person that you don't see coming in, being held back by the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Heavy.
wrapped around you and your body and wrapped the emotion. What do you think of the wine? This is our latest top-notch reviewed wine, dear friends.
Well,
and
I would
Rapture.
just encourage JC's best friends, dear friends, to buy some because it's really delicious. I don't have all the adjectives for wine.
Oh, that's great.
But doesn't this look really good with all these buttons?
I know. Look at that. Woo!
Boof, kaboom. That's crazy.
But you, what is for you that inspires you the most, Gordon?
I'm going to say that one of the things that inspires me so much is nature, Mother Nature. She's the mother of all things that are beautiful. I'm also really inspired by this idea, sorry for my corny mission statement in life, but I'm here to edify, inspire the spirit of humanity by bringing beauty and meaning into the world through art. And that's what gets me up in the morning every day. That's what inspires me every day. Telling other people's stories in an inspiring way, I just love it. And honestly, as busy as I seem to always be, and my team is always busy, my creative capacity is far greater than the opportunities I seem to find, right? So when I came up with that infinity loop,
Yeah.
I was kind of done. Well, but it took a whole year to go through all those steps, right? And that's not me. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a fabricator. I'm nothing. I'm just kind of, I check in from time to time, so I could do 10 more. Just give it to me, baby. Let's go.
And what drives you to be wanting to continue? Because, dear friends, you got to realize Gordon has been enormously successful in a small town that is Napa Valley, and really radiates all around the world. So what keeps you not only just inspired, but wanting to keep creating?
Oh, you know, it's once you're an artist, you're just, that's all you are, or that's all I am, or that's most of what I am.
Which is a lot.
And I want to do more and bigger. And as long as I'm breathing and I have the energy, I know I have the creative juice to do it. So I'm not really motivated by money, although money matters. But it's just really a way of life. It's a way of being. Yeah. And to help people, especially the lay person, to change their way a little bit of how they see things around them. So that steerhead is going to change the way that you see.
For sure.
You see something. Or earlier I was talking about the crack in the cement. Yeah. Maybe the next time that lay person walks into a store and sees a crack, say, oh, remember that artist guy was talking about that shape, and how cool is that? And so we can transform people's thinking, which is, it's a big responsibility, or maybe I'm being too lofty, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. And what is there that you haven't done yet that you wish you will be undertaking soon?
Well, I'm not really certain about that, honestly. I guess what I would like to do is work more internationally, in countries that I'm comfortable in. I'll say it like that. And I would like to, one of my earlier experiences as an artist when I was in Germany, after World War II, so many of those cathedrals, gorgeous cathedrals that are centuries and centuries old, the stained glass was gone. They either blew up or they took it out to, then they couldn't find it or whatever. I would love to put really modern, intensely colorful art glass windows in an old cathedral. That would be super cool. I would like to do more memorials because it's so easy for us to forget. And then the next generation, like the 9/11 memorial I did downtown,
Yeah.
there's kids that are young adults now when that occurred, and they don't remember it. And that's kind of sad to me. So I'm sorry, I'm not probably giving you a very good answer. I'd just like to do more
this is a great
and
one.
bigger and bigger net.
Well, talking about bigger,
Yeah.
can you show us what you're doing in the Midwest?
In the bed. Oh, yes. In Austin, Minnesota. Is that what you're talking about?
That's right.
Oh, well, let's start
Maybe
right
it
here.
starts here.
Well, it starts here. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a fork. And you'll see,
You use it every day unless you eat with your hands.
right? And then you see that there's a little person standing there. That's a scale person. Now imagine this. That's what this is to help you do. Imagine this being 30 feet tall. That's a 3-story building covered with 10,000 forks. It's like fork fur. Okay? So out in the shop, we have our 10,000 forks, but we have to flatten them. So I don't know if Menace is flattening forks right now or not, but let's go see.
We're continuing in the studio.
Are you not flattening any more forks? Huh? Yeah, you gonna set it up real quick for me? So, because I want to show your
Yeah.
your dear friends.
Well,
another-
let's look
another
at
kind of
real art.
Yes. So
Real art is right here.
So, we were talking about, Menace, turn that off. We're talking about why does art matter and what is art even.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to suggest that art finds its way in shoes, clothing, fashion, glassware, architecture, cars. I challenge anybody to tell me that this little car is not a work of art.
That's right.
And there's probably few things in this world that give me more pleasure than driving around Napa in that car. It's a 1959, the year of my birth, and I'm kind of sentimentally attached to this kind of car. My parents, my grandpa from Berlin, lived later in his life in Napa, and he walked to work for 5 years so he could save money and pay cash for a brand new Beetle. And he took me, right? And so that's my beginnings. And so it's very, anyways, it makes
But
me
it's great that you pay homage to the history of your family as well.
Yeah, I've done that in a lot of different kinds of ways.
It guides you a lot in what you do.
Yeah, well, there's an author named Alex Haley who once said, in order to understand where you're going, you need to understand where you've already been. And that's a very words of wisdom, if you ask me. And my father was I'm going to call him a Renaissance man. So he believed that the world was in cultural decline since the Renaissance. So he was totally into classical music, deeply. He was into rare books. He was into German philosophy, beautiful women, classical art, and that's what I grew up around. And but I was so depressed at some point when I was younger because I knew that I had the heart and soul of an artist, but I didn't think I had any talent because I was looking through the lens of what my father taught me, which is still to this day as an artist very valuable. But it wasn't until he passed away that I was like free, and I could still apply the principles of classical art to modern art. It's amazing. Can I show you guys something real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is part of an airport project that we're doing. This is as long as a football field.
Amazing
It's
shape.
acres and acres of fabric. This is just in different lighting, all taken from inspiration from nature,
Yeah, for sure.
right? So this took millions and millions of years of air and water and wind to create these patterns. Crazy. So this just recently got installed. We're now doing, in the same project, 1,000 feet, so 3 football fields long. We're doing the lighting. We're doing the sculpture, the ceiling. We're specifying all the colors, all the materials, and all the sound. So it's a totally all-encompassing, holistic experience.
And what about this one?
That
As well,
is-
it's part of it?
That's all. This is all the same project.
Where is it?
Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City.
Unbelievable.
It's really. It's
It
been.
reminds me like butter or the desert shapes that have been
That's fabric.
carved over time.
Fabric.
And
That's
what
just-
fabric is it out of?
That, but in white. So that's for the tunnel.
Wow.
But this is all in white, and so that we could have a really great surface to project colored light onto.
That's amazing. Phenomenal. And again, your beautiful glass construction as
yep,
well
that's
that you're
right.
so known for.
And so, like, you know, so this is what I love, is doing the paper. This is just with a glue gun and paper.
And you did it yourself?
So this is me. That's right. And then someday it turns into that.
Yeah.
And in about 1.5 years, it'll all get installed. But this is where I start.
And I could see, Gordon, you're like me, extremely impatient.
That's for sure.
And I
Cheers
could
to that. That's
well, when I do art, and I should show you someday, I love to do things as well, but I have other people finish and it's never exactly what I want, but I don't have the patience or the attention to details to finish it all, because similar to the horns and the buttons, it's going to take you another 30, 40 hours to finish.
Oh yeah, at least. Right.
Similar to this, so how do you cultivate that sense of patience that allows you to finish?
First of all, you nailed that. I'm super impatient. And years ago, I realized that if I had to design, no, let me say it differently. If I sold each project, I had to make each project, I had to install each project myself. I would only do 1 or 2 things a year.
That's right.
And I need to do 30 or 40 things a year.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was talking about earlier about this infrastructure that I've built around me, so I can do this.
Yeah.
I call my team together. You'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking.
Not only I do the same thing, but I do exactly what you do, in a sense that I could not make wine from A to Z anymore. No patience.
Yeah.
From literally the destemming of the whole cluster to the 30 days of fermentation I used to do it, but I come in at different stage to stylize.
Yeah, that's right. Touch it here.
Yeah.
Touch it at those key moments. That's what Frank Gehry does, I'm sure, with his buildings.
Totally. But what I'm impressed as we go around here is
Well,
all what you have. I mean, we've looked at glass, we've looked at stainless steel, we've looked at every single fabric on the face of the earth. You do it. I'm sure even wood.
Yeah, I've worked with wood. It doesn't really interest me as much anymore. But
Yeah.
if I could show you and your viewers one more thing before we watch Mendez flatten those forks.
Look at that, baby. I know what it is.
So
That's it. Yeah.
It's a water droplet. Okay, so there's 3 of them. There will be 3 of them. The tallest one will touch the ceiling. So that's about 25 feet. We had a mock-up made in Holland. This just arrived a month or so ago. So we make sure that I get the quality that I want and all that. So this is all handmade, hand polished. Are you familiar with the bean in Chicago?
Yes, of course.
It's the same material.
Yeah. Which is?
Stainless steel.
I love it.
Ready, Mendez?
I'm in love with this. I'm like a young man in a candy store.
Here, Mendez. I'll do it with you. Whoop.
I think I'm moving in, dear friends. Don't look for me ever in the winery anymore.
So
I'm joining hands with Gordon. I'm
on.
disappearing in the world of art.
So this is our.
Are you hungry?
This is a part of our.
What are we eating?
We're eating art. We're eating art. And so, what we have to do, JC, is we have to flatten all these forks, and then we put them in a salt bath to get rid of the ones that might rust. And then they'll be welded to the surface of this gigantic fork that's taller than the ceiling here.
Really? So you're going big, big.
That's big. Yeah, it's pretty big. I'd go bigger, but it wouldn't fit.
That's
Okay,
amazing. Do you want to show us? So how is it working then?
Well, it's kind of primitive. So we didn't want to individually hammer them because I was worried about the steel.
Yeah.
And so the best thing that we figured out is just to use some plywood and a forklift and just run them over.
Are you serious?
That's pretty simple. I'm a
I
simple
love
guy.
it. Maybe we should go on top with Mendes. Let's go here.
Okay, we'll go
Gordon
together.
on each
That's
side
right.
with a fork. Mendes, you're going to be fine. Look at that.
All right.
We are compacting.
We are making art together.
This is the ultimate union.
Crunch, 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 crunch.
I-
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
I
crunch,
love it.
crunch, 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 crunch. Okay, back, Mendes. Whoa!
Hey, we're going backwards.
Art is dangerous. Art can't hurt you.
Art is dairy.
One more. Okay, we gotta do another one. Okay,
Let's do
Mendes.
another one. Hey, when she says one is not enough, you come back.
Oh my God, here we go.
I love it. Mendes really drives it well. Huh? But
So ridiculous.
behind art, you got to have creativity. That's the thing as far as how to do it.
Well, yeah, you have to. It's one thing to think it up, but then you actually have to make it. Thanks, Mendes. Will you lower us? Elevator. Floor 1. Lingerie. What? No, it's okay.
Konnichiwa. So, Gordon, what a fun time.
Right on, man. I'm
So
glad you were
we
here.
are in your world here. So what drives this passion of creating?
What drives the passion?
I know it's a different question than
Wow,
inspiration.
where does it come from?
Yeah.
You know, I've often asked myself that, and you got to see the results. You said,
Yes. Hey, it's a good idea, Mendes.
right? Yep, they look pretty flat.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Look at that.
Making
Look at
art.
that baby. Maybe we have sushi or sashimi with it.
Thank you, Mendes.
It's like chopsticks.
Yeah, man. You know, honestly, I don't really know how to answer that question. I can tell you that mostly it's a blessing to have that passion for what I do.
Yeah.
It sometimes can be a real spiritual burden, emotional
Yeah.
burden, because
I could see why.
you're operating differently than most people around you,
That's right.
and it's hard for people to understand you, and sometimes you find it hard to even understand yourself.
That's it.
Why am I like this? I don't know. But thank goodness the fruit of that has manifested in what some of the things I've shared with you today.
Well, not only manifested, dear friends, don't you think we had an amazing time?
We did.
Hey,
Cheers.
Gordon, the best. So, one last message.
Yes.
I think that's very important to all our friends. It's been 2 years of excitement, needless to say. We've gotten to know oneself and each other. Give everyone a big message. We're turning a new year, 2022, soon.
Yeah.
What's your big...
It's in everything that is hard and everything that is painful, there is always something so beautiful and positive that comes out of it. Think of a rose that comes out of a crack in the sidewalk. We will be better, we will be stronger, we will be more beautiful. We are learning to do things in different ways that we would have never thought of had we been doing it like we do every day. Is that right?
I think it's beautifully said. And who would have thought a fork
Right.
couldn't be flat? Is that a fork?
Cheers. Boof.